Let's get to NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli. Mike, good morning. So let's talk through the mood in the White House last night as results started coming in. Have we gotten any reaction from the president this morning?
So we haven't heard from the president yet, but we expect to hear from him this afternoon. Presidents typically will address the nation and hold a press conference on the day after a midterm elections. And we've seen in the past that's often to take a little bit of a humble pie, as they say. We know that presidents typically see shellacking, as one president put it, a thumping, as another president put it, in his first midterm election. But we're looking at what is likely to be the best first midterm election for a Democratic president, a sitting president of any party, really in at least 20 years, and perhaps one of the best in the last century. So there's a lot of White House officials I'm talking to who are already touting some of the results that we're seeing. We just heard from White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain, who is touting the strong turnout, for instance, of young voters and saying it's a result of the president keeping his promises on things like action on climate change and student loan debt relief. And we're likely to hear a lot of talk about the president's consistent advocacy for things like protecting abortion rights. He's sometimes took criticism for giving those remarks that he did just recently about it at a time when everyone said the number one issue was the economy. And so this is a White House that's eager to take a lot of credit. The president had a late night. He called more than 36 Democratic winners last night, and we expect he'll make more calls today as the results continue to come in.
Mike, I have to imagine the president breathed a big sigh of relief when Pennsylvania was called for John Fetterman overnight, especially considering the president actually did go there and campaign. What is the reaction to that win in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, you've probably heard me use this stat, the president traveling to Pennsylvania 18 times over the course of the last year and a half, more than any other state other than Delaware and Maryland, of course, and we know he goes there a lot on the weekends. But consider this, if the city of Philadelphia was a state, it would be more than any other state except for Delaware and Maryland. And so this was obviously a high priority for President Biden, and it was a result that played out well for the Democrats, obviously. Fetterman and Josh Shapiro, the gubernatorial candidate, winning a strong victory. Notably as well, some of the battleground House districts also coming in Democrats' favor. Now, this is a state that's close to the president's heart as his birth state, obviously from Scranton, but we know also the role it played in 2020. It was what put him over the top, made him the president-elect of the United States in 2020, and we know that the roadmap for 2024, if the president does run again, also runs squarely through Pennsylvania. So this was a down payment, let's say, in a potential future campaign as well.
Yeah, so Mike, while Pennsylvania was somewhat surprisingly already called, there's still a lot, of course, as you just mentioned, that hasn't been called. We still don't have the final result here for the Senate or the House. But, you know, having had this long conversation for a while now about the fact that there could be this red wave, let's talk about how the president potentially prepared a legislative agenda for the possibility of having to work with Republicans in either one, potentially both chambers of Congress. What does that look like? What's he prepared for?
Well, the most significant result from the perspective of the White House is the fact that the Democrats still have a chance to maintain control of the Senate. That's so important for, if nothing else, nominating more judges and getting more cabinet potential vacancies that we might see in the coming weeks and months confirmed for the president's cabinet. But let's also talk about what might happen legislatively. If Republicans have a narrow majority, the president is going to be looking to do what he promised to do, to unite the country, to work across the aisle. There might be Republicans in districts that bode well for Democrats down the road or for the president in 2024, where Republicans might feel the need to cross the aisle. But I've also heard from a White House official who said the narrower the Republican majority, if they do have the majority, the more difficult it's going to be for them to get anything passed on their own in terms of their own policy priorities. And it might mean the thing that unifies the Republican caucus is investigation, investigation, investigation. You can do a lot with committee chairmanships, even if you don't have a strong governing majority. And so the White House is bracing for that possibility as well.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.